Book objectives. This is basically what you want for yourself and for your reader, for the book. First question is, how do you want your book to serve your readers? What will they get out of it? So in the outline that you guys are working on right now, let's take a few minutes. I'm going to walk you through examples first, but you can start writing now if you want, if you know. But this is really where I want you guys to start deeply thinking about this sort of stuff. So here's some examples. This is from a book about learning that was done in this workshop about, 2 months ago. So first and foremost, I want to inspire the reader and convince them they aren't stuck where they are now. They can improve and unlock their full potential and learn anything and everything fast. Okay, good. I'd like to give them tools and techniques and confidence to actually learn faster. Finally, I'd like to open their eyes to an alternative way of living, from health to lifestyle design to their career. I want to ultimately inspire and empower them to live the lives of their dreams. Right? Make sense? I mean, learning is a pretty big subject. These are things that are, some of them are a little bit, I don't want to say they're out there, but a little bold. That's fine. But that's what they want, that author wants the reader to take. Here's another one. This book is about sales for women specifically. Her goals are, she wants a woman to read this book to feel empowered. They can ask for the sale confidently. The women who read the book will be able to use the sales strategies to increase conversion rate without feeling pushy or salesy. The woman who read the book will feel like that they can do it. And the woman who read the book will feel inspired to stand in the face of their fear and go for their dreams in sales. All makes total sense, right? Okay, cool. Stop now, answer those, then we're all going to go over them in a group. All right, question 2. Imagine it's a few years after your book's been published. What have you accomplished because of the book? Right? So now let me go over some examples before you guys dive in. What are realistic book objectives? So you guys all read the piece on this, right? All right, so there's, I'm going to go over them really quickly again. Leave a legacy is a big one. Another one's impacting people. Those are usually the top 2 for most of our authors. They're the ones that are kind of the broad ones. Then they start to get into tactical things like raise my authority or credibility in my field. Books are great at that. Raise my visibility in the media, which is not quite the same thing as authority and credibility in your field, but they're similar. Generate new incoming business, of course. The lead gen is fantastic. Help me get speaking gigs. Books are almost requirements for that. Help work through an issue. We put Brita example on here. Brita is an author who went through the guided author just like you guys a few months ago. She was doing it. She's a lawyer and a state attorney. And she was doing a book about the title of the book is How to Lose Your Parents Without Losing Your Mind, I think. Something like that. Basically, what do you do when a parent dies? And it's because it's not just will and trust stuff. There's all she has a whole chapter about self-care. She asks her clients all the time, are you eating? Like all these sorts of things. And so she did not obviously orchestrate it this way, but her father died while she was writing her book. Maybe not a blessing, but the timing was helped her actually work through a lot of the issues. Not just from the book, but parents. A book about parents dying. She had a lot of emotional residue from when her mom died. Like she didn't handle things well. A lot of shit went off the rails. She was able to both deal with that and deal with her father's death better. As she was writing the book, which, look, none of your parents hopefully are going to die when you write a book. But the point is, it is a realistic objective to think, you know what? Part of me writing my book is telling this story or giving back in this way that is helping me work through an issue that I have in my life. So thinking it kind of like therapy. Now, if you're writing a book only for therapy, you wouldn't be here. We wouldn't let you in the workshop if that was the only point. But understanding that that's a component, it doesn't have to be, but if it is, that's okay, all right? So here, let me give you some more specific examples. We're gonna go with the same books. The book about learning. We've built our B2C business to over 10 million a year, in large part by leveraging the free book funnel and the exposure of the book. So that's, again, notice how he doesn't say we're gonna make 10 million a year because of the book. A book is part of a larger strategy, right? We're doing a 1 million a year in corporate and enterprise subscriptions because of the exposure and credibility of the book and the event. He's tying his book into it. He has one of the big learning events in the world. We sparked research, conversation, debate about education reform and working on a few not-for-profit pilots to improve education. We're running the world's largest learning summit with over 500 people a year paying to attend and using the book as sort of funnel to get in. Now notice how it's okay to have big objectives and goals. if you don't think, okay, I'm going to write the book and then magic happens and all this money flies in. A book's part of a system, right? If you understand that, then having big goals is okay. So let's look at the one for Sales for Women. I have a large female following, a large following of female entrepreneurs. My brand is recognized and well respected. Makes sense. Frequently get messages from people, women and men, who thank me for writing the book because it genuinely helped them. Totally. Sought out speaker on the topic of sales and female empowerment. I've done a TEDx talk and been asked to speak at large conferences like South by Southwest and Traffic and Conversion. Totally realistic, totally doable. Make sense? Okay. Now, what I'm going to do now is kill your fantasies to save your reality. Like, I know this was in the piece, but we're going to go over this quickly. These are unrealistic objectives. Selling 1 million copies, not going to happen, right? Even though we have actually done books like David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me and Tiffany Haddish's Last Black Unicorn that have sold literally millions of copies, they are the extreme outliers. So unless you have a big platform of people waiting for you, or possibly one of you may write a book that just takes off. I'm not saying it's impossible. What I'm saying, it's unrealistic to put down as an objective. Does that make sense, the difference? Okay, good. Make me famous, not going to happen. Maybe some of you can be famous, but a book by itself almost never makes anyone famous. Be a New York Times bestselling author. Again, we've put several books on the list, but again, I'm telling you, this is not a realistic objective for most of you because you just don't have the audience that's waiting to buy 10,000 or more of your copies. Even though the book will be very successful for you, that isn't a realistic objective. Get on Oprah or Ellen. Again, unless you have a book that is about something they really care about, which some of you might, probably not. Speak at TED. TEDx, very realistic. TED, big TED, different thing. I can tell you sort of like how to do that, but that's a very, very difficult goal. Or fill an emotional void, right? Which is like, seriously, we do get people who come in and they won't admit it usually at first, but what ends up happening is they see the book as being able to, I don't know, solve something for them. It's not going to happen. A book can help. A book can be therapeutic, but it is not therapy. It doesn't do the work for you. Does this make sense for everyone? Right? Okay. The big thing I want to emphasize with this, it's not that any of these are impossible. It's that unless you have a clear path to them, unless you really understand what's going to happen or what it takes to get to these, it doesn't happen on its own. It's not just a magical thing. Now, I know the question that some of you are going to ask is, but shouldn't I think big? Isn't it cool to set big goals? Okay, fine. That's okay. The problem is, if you set unrealistic goals, it will cause you a lot of times to write a book that won't serve the realistic goals you have, right? So for example, if you have a couple let's go back to the book on sales, right? For women. These are all very realistic goals. Speak at some conferences where women in sales are topics, have a following, and then get messages from people, right? But if she also says, well, I need to sell 1 million copies, a book on sales for women isn't going to probably sell 1 million copies, right? Because the audience for sales for women is a small subset of the audience for sales. So like if her goal is I've got to sell 1 million copies, she needs to write a broader book. But she probably didn't have a broader book in her. Like, in fact, I know she doesn't. Her ideas on sales for women are fantastic, and I think that book's going to do really well. Selling 1 million copies is not the way to define success for that, and so it would cause her to write the wrong book for her. Does this make sense, how unrealistic objectives can get you off where you should be? Okay, cool. All right, so the question still stands. Imagine a few years after your book's been published, what have you accomplished? Stop now. Go answer that. Go write down all your answers, and we're going to come around, look at them, then we're going to talk about them. All right, good. So now let's talk about the next question. What's the single event you're going to celebrate when the book is out? It's what we call a champagne moment, right? A good example is when I booked my first speaking gig, right? That's something that's going to cause you to break out. This is sparkling water, but close enough. Well, I'm going to break out the bottle of champagne with my partner, and we're going to drink and celebrate. Another good example, when I get my first client from the book, right? Or when I hold the book in my hands is a really good one. Those are all good. Bad examples. This next one is real. I swear to God someone put this in here. When I sell 1 million copies and get on every bestseller list, and Malcolm Gladwell asked me to co-write his next book, and Oprah wants me on her show. They were kind of fucking with me, but still. Like, this is actually a thing we've had to deal with certain authors who kind of have these sorts of fantasies, right? Or this is another real one, when my dad tells me he loves me. Like, look, I feel for you, but books don't do this. This is an issue with your dad, not an issue with books, right? So putting that sort of pressure on the book is not gonna help you, okay? Now we actually had authors who wrote books and it helped their relationship with their parents a lot, but that's probably not the champagne moment because you don't control that. All right, so let's stop now, answer that, and then we're gonna kind of read them out loud and go around, talk about them.